In today's society, it is crucial to address the issue of climate change. For only 30 years has our species actually begun to include climate change in our research, which is a staggering amount of time considering how long we lived on planet Earth. Even today, the issue still remains ignored by much of society, which is astonishing considering the immense damage it deals on our environment. In this video, our group plans to highlight two key points to the societal problem of global warming. First, we plan to highlight the fact that plants and animals living on our Earth cannot successfully adapt to the rapidly changing environment fueled by human influence. Evolution is simply far too important to our existence, and the fact that humans are rapidly curbing our planet's evolution is astonishing. Not only do we plan on explaining this astonishing fact, it is also necessary to include an in-depth overview of our planet's pollution. As one of the key contributors to climate change and ozone decay, it is absolutely necessary that the idea is expressed. Together, these two ideas include some of the most astonishing representations of the social justice issue addressed, and it is only a matter of time before society must force themselves to realize the issues at hand.
Climate change is occurring at a rapid rate, and some creatures just can't keep up. In the Manu National Park, trees are on plots at varying degrees of elevation, and this makes each plot very biodiverse. The increase in elevation translates almost directly into a difference in temperature. Because of this, trees that are abundant in one plot may be missing entirely from the next one down or up. This is the case for almost all tropical life. Since these trees have such a narrow climate range, they won't be able to adapt fast enough for how rapidly our climate is changing. Scientists estimate that between 10,000 and 100,000 species are becoming extinct each year. Even on the low end of the spectrum, we are rapidly losing wildlife. The environment has always had a changing climate, but humans are changing it at a far more rapid pace. Plants and animals physically can't adapt fast enough, and scientists can't help them. Although climate change can seem small, it affects animals in big ways.
One major factor of climate change comes in the form of pollution. Each year, humans emit over 36,572.75 million metric tons of carbon dioxide. Other forms of pollution, such as noise, water, and ground pollution, have affected many natural ecosystems. Elizabeth Kolbert, the author of The Sixth Extinction, experiences in first-hand sight how aquatic ecosystems are changing because of pollution. In the sixth chapter, titled The Sea Around Us, Goldberg goes on an expedition to the island of Arognesi near the Tyrrhenian Sea. She expects to find a variety of sea life, but instead is blinded by patches of oil and gas bubbles. Colbert recollects later saying, quote, "Since the start of the Industrial Revolution, humans have burned through enough fossil fuels, coal, oil, and natural gases, to add to some 360 billion metric tons of carbon to the atmosphere." Unquote. In America alone, there have been at least 44 oil spills reported by NOAA and the Office of Response and Respiration. This accumulates up to 420,000 gallons of oil. Without change, human pollution can cause massive damage to our environment, eliminating important species that could affect our lives as well. It is important to consider what we can do to solve these problems.
Given the current situation of the world and climate change overall, I'd say we're in a pretty bad situation and we're more or less screwed, assuming 2020 doesn't screw us over first. Of course, that said, it's not entirely a helpless situation, assuming that we get through 2020. And there are ways that we can we can more or less fix this or at least slow it down. The most obvious of which, and possibly one of the most available method, would be to switch away from using fossil fuel. The generation of electricity in the United States contributes to about 28% of the total greenhouse gas emissions in the US, and transportation covers 29%. Just by these numbers would mean cutting greenhouse emission by half just by switching off greenhouse gas in electricity and transportation. That said, it's not nearly enough. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, land use, changes in land use as well as forestry in the United States only sinks about 11% of our current total emission. To further reduce our emission or improve the situation regarding the amount of CO2 and other greenhouse gases we put into the air, one other thing that we can do is carbon capture. Carbon capture has been done in history, and it's currently being done at power plants as well as factories. Just before they release byproduct gases into the air, carbon is captured through a complicated chemical process. Going over it will take too much time. It is usually either stored under the ground in large caverns or under the sea. That said, it is not a foolproof solution, as it could increase the speed of ocean acidification, and that is kind of a bad thing. That said, there are alternatives to storing carbon this way to reduce the amount of carbon emitted, and that is that we can take carbon out of the air through direct air carbon capture. With direct air carbon capture, there are multiple ways to go about it. There are two major ways that are being implemented by companies in the world right now, one of which is carbon engineering, which aims to capture carbon dioxide and convert it into fuel that can be stored or used for other things, thus creating what's basically carbon neutral fuel. And the other is ClimateWorks. ClimateWorks looks to turn carbon emission into stone by storing it in basalt formations in Iceland. Both of which are solutions that are currently in the works, and by the look of things it works. It's just we need to give them more funding somehow. That said, there are also other ways of resolving climate change, some of which does not exactly involve taking carbon out of the air, but rather a more patchwork solution. The idea being replicating the effects of a volcanic eruption on global climate. Volcanic eruption tends to reduce global temperatures because it brightens clouds and reduces the amount of light that actually reaches Earth. The idea behind this more patchwork solution is to throw salt and various other particles into the upper atmosphere with the goal of brightening clouds to reflect light away from the Earth. Of course, there are also other solutions that are less short-term, such as ones that is discussed on MIT Technology Reviews about deploying a swarm of satellites at Lagrangian 1 point in the Earth's sun system to reflect light away from the Earth. Of course, there are various ways to go about solving climate change, but these are some of the most plausible ways, and one really sci-fi way that I found in regards to how to get ourselves out of this mess.
All in all, it is clear that global warming is an issue that must be addressed more prominently in today's society. Not only does it cause the sole driving force behind our growth as organisms on this planet, evolution, to be curbed, but it is also caused by our lack of care of the planet. For that reason, it is crucial to make a change. Donate to research, use less waste, start using paper instead of plastic, compost, in other words, make a change, stop this global pandemic.